Wow. Hi, I'm Deanne Battle, and this is the Composite. It's been 2 months. Yep, but we're back. I feel like I say that a lot, but 2024 was a series of stops, restarts, reconfigurations, resets, all of that. So I'm bringing the show into 2025. All right. So this is season 5, episode 3. And I was going through, the seasons and the episodes so quickly. And so then, a 2 month, I guess, a holiday break. So I hope the year has been going well, hopefully, for you thus far. Still kind of going through it a bit, but it's a little lighter. Things are lightening up a bit. I saw this meme, and it's somebody on the phone, and they have that customer service face. Excuse me. Like when you're like on hold. So the person has that face, and it was just like, yeah, totally canceled my subscription to 2024, hoping, this season of 2025 turns out better. And so it said something like that, but I thought that was really funny, and I completely agree with it. So some quick updates before we get to official episode business here. So I had a pinched nerve in my neck, a sinus infection, and then, we had a bit of a family emergency. But all of those things have dissipated. Yay! And so I was going to do a quote-unquote commercial or an ad, but I kept doing these ads and saying, okay, yeah, we're going to go live tonight. And then something would come up, or I was sick for a long time. Like, I was just kind of laid out, and my aunt and my cousin were doing a great job kind of taking care of me. My cousin was making this kind of magical tea. I think he was putting like black pepper and other stuff and turmeric, and just, he was like, listen, gotta get you cleared out. And it was super helpful. But, between the congestion and exhaustion, I was useless. So I wasn't broadcasting. But it's really nice to be back. So, and the news cycle has been so busy, so busy. So I'm going to tread lightly in terms of how I navigate this for a few reasons. As I've mentioned many times, my wheelhouse is I'm a storyteller, I'm a writer, I'm a teacher of literature. And I'm someone who enjoys current events. I like, talking through ideas, solutions, situations to the world's problems, but I'm not an expert. And, at this point, there are just so many people giving so many hot takes on so many different things. And so I will, mention a smattering of events that are interesting to me or that I'm wondering about, but I've decided, now going forward, I'm probably not going to do as many takes on current events, because like I said, it's not my wheelhouse in the sense of I don't have a level of expertise that I would like in terms of having I think an opinion, that it's informed to the level where I think it's useful. I think that that's what it is. I have opinions on a variety of things, but the longer that I do this, the more I realize, my opinion is only really valuable on a limited number of topics, or at least that's the way I feel about it at the moment. And so I was listening to a news story last night, and I'll transition into one of the topics here since I'm going in that direction anyway. Sorry, just looking at my notes. And in the middle of the coverage, I tend to watch online media, new media generally. And I was just like, I thought I was an intelligent person. I guess I'm just really not as smart as I thought I was. And the reason that I say this is I always underestimate the human capacity for evil. In everything, when I quote unquote have a hot take, or, when I do have a more political opinion, there's nothing controversial or revolutionary happening over here, because I still, at this late date, operate from a place of decency. All right, so we'll transition into the first thing that I wanted to talk about, and it's the LA fires. And so I'm watching this online coverage, and in the middle of the coverage, because the woman who was covering it, and I mean, the only reason I'm not saying like a name or anything like that is because I don't think I'm going to attach like any clips or any resources to this episode. It's my first one in a while, so take it easy on me here, please. But so she was covering the LA fires and, talking about Karen Bass, the mayor of Los Angeles, and Gavin Newsom, the governor of California. And, Newsom's giving in this interview, he's doing his usual bullshit, right? That's not new. But so the woman who's covering it, right, in alternative media, she's talking about him, Gavin Newsom. And I'm looking at the clip, and it was just like a 15-second zoom out in my head. And I don't even think I was hearing him anymore because I was looking at his body language. And so why? They asked him, well, what are you going to do? Because LA, they're supposed to have the Olympics in 2028. And they're like, well, there's all of these things that are supposed to be coming to Los Angeles. LA is going to be on the world stage for the Olympics. Like, well, what are you going to do about that? And in that 15 seconds, his body language, it was just like, he was so excited to talk about how the real estate developers were going to come in, and then, architects and engineers were going to come in and rebuild LA and make LA better than ever. And it just occurred to me, I said to myself, oh shit, Deanne, you've been thinking way too small about this entire situation. And this is why I shouldn't cover the news, because his body language and his tone of voice told me everything I needed to know. This shit was planned. So people are like, oh, Karen Bass incompetent. Oh, Gavin Newsom incompetent. And then, there are certain people who are like, oh, this is because of DEI. Like, I'm not even going to address that because I don't feel like killing more brain cells than like I've already killed by even having to hear that bullshit argument. But I'm just like, oh, this wasn't incompetency. They freaking wanted these communities to burn, right? Because there were insurance companies that were canceling policies in that area, I believe 3 or 4 months before these fires happened. And then, so if you're an official, there's no way you don't know that. You know that, and especially, I mean, you've got donors at these insurance companies, right? Like, let's not kid ourselves about that. And so it's just like, so you started canceling the policies 3 or 4 months ago. The officials know that you're canceling the policies. Where's Karen Bass? Karen Bass was out of the country, and which, politicians travel, all right? But it's just like one more thing. And then Newsom's like, he's already got a plan together for how they're going to work with private industry to, quote unquote, fix LA. And I was just like, wow, I think way too small. Because in my mind, I'm like, oh, this is a nightmare, Who would do this on purpose? There are plenty of fucking people who would do this on purpose, Deanne. I'm completely out of my depth. Because even, the crap year that I had in 2024, issues that I've had where people have betrayed me and bitterly disappointed me throughout my life, I still reset, and I'm still looking for a certain level of decency. And it just, I'm not sure if that exists. I'm not sure if that exists. And it seems as if you want to survive at a maximum level in the 21st century, especially in 2025, there is a particular degree of ruthlessness that you have to surrender to. Now, I'm just kind of thinking out loud here, so I don't know if it's the ruthlessness of your character, meaning, I'm just, YOLO, I'm just going to do me, do whatever I need to do, irrespective of, who's watching or who's involved. So that's one type of ruthlessness. But then there's another ruthlessness where it's like, no, I'm not saying that I personally would do anything to anyone, but my mind has the capacity to always envision that perspective. And what I'm realizing more and more about myself is there are certain things I don't have the capacity for. Like last year, I think it was in October or November, I was one of my best friends. We were on the phone for hours because I just hadn't talked to her in so long. And we're catching up. And we started talking about 9/11. And 9/11 happened when I was in college. I was actually, because I had, my undergraduate school, like your sophomore summer, you're required to be on campus. So I took the fall off. And I was interning at a off-Broadway nonprofit theater. And so the day that 9/11 happened, I was getting ready to go to my internship. I had a comb stuck in my hair. Actually, it had a knot, and it was stuck. Well, at the time I didn't have locks. So it was an accidental knot, not a purposeful knot. But I just stood there with a comb in my head because, I couldn't believe what I was looking at. And so my good friend in 2023, October, November 2023, 2024, sorry, I'm totally disembodied from any type of chronological anything. But about 3 or 4 months ago, she said, she was asking me something about a detail of 9/11 because I lived in New York City here, where I am now, when it happened. And I just remember blurting out, I said, I can't even imagine what you're talking about, because I can't understand how somebody could have the capacity for evil to even do this. And that is not a particular race or creed of people. That's not a particular religion of people. I'm just talking about what has to happen to you as a human being. And you sit down and you say, you know what? Yeah, that's the ticket. I'm gonna have like suicide bombers basically commandeer planes and fucking dive into the middle of a building. I mean, something that would never occur to me. And so that was, 9/11. I'm not trying to say that the LA fires and 9/11 are equivalent historic events. That's not where I'm going with it. I'm just saying that I keep having these moments in my life where it's like I'm on a roller coaster, and then, or like, when you take off on a flight and the bottom falls out of your stomach. The bottom falls out of my stomach when I realize, oh wow, someone purposely did this shit. They're like, yeah, we want these certain communities of people gone before the Olympics. There's plenty of, foreign investment money to be had. There's plenty of donor money to be had. There's plenty of, construction, real estate, high-end department stores to be built. There is commerce going on. Let's set this shit on fire. Somebody did that. Somebody had the capacity for that. I was like, wow. And then, so this is January, right? So what additional capacity for evil are we going to be witness to? How is my stomach going to drop out of the bottom like even further than it's already gone? I don't even know, thoughts and prayers, nobody wants to hear that. So my condolences to the people of Los Angeles for what they're losing right now. Because that man's body language tells me that you did not have to be in the situation that you're in right now. He's a piece of work. He really is. That's bad. And while we're on this topic, the news cycle goes so quickly, right? Because it was all about drones over New Jersey, and then what's going on with the drones? Hold on a second. Let me see if I can find an article. Because I was thinking about that. I said, weren't they trying to scare the shit out of us about some damn drones? And then I'm not hearing about it anymore. So let's see here. News. Okay. All right, I'm seeing a couple of articles here, so I'll get into the drone thing in a bit. But the other thing I was going to mention were the acts of domestic terrorism. There was a guy in New Orleans who, he drove a car into a crowd of people. I believe 15 or 16 people died. And then another guy, he blew up a Cybertruck in front of Trump Tower. And then there were all these conspiracy emails and stuff going around. And those both felt engineered as well. It just was like, oh, the New Orleans guy, oh yeah, not only does he just say, you know what, this is how I'm going to go out, this is what I want to do. There's an ISIS flag, and then they go to his house. They're, oh, the Quran is open. Oh, look at that! Like everything just happens to connect in this way. It's just like, come on, y'all. Now, I'm not saying that these two individuals did not have nefarious intentions. But what I'm saying here is, with the fires and with these two instances of domestic terrorism, there are comical levels of incompetency, like, being demonstrated. And I refuse to believe that they're that stupid. It's like, well, what are you getting out of this? Well, if you have knowledge of terrorism being planned, or if you have knowledge of people that should be on watch lists or whatever, and then you don't do it right, and then the people are able to carry out their acts of terrorism, then you're just breeding a culture of fear, which I think is a very real political strategy. Every election's the last one that we're going to have, and a fight to save democracy, and everything is always the end of the world. And there are people that not only capitalize on it, but that they live to capitalize on it. Like, that's where their mind is, always toward a profit or power motive. And I don't think that way. I don't operate that way. And so, again, that's why I just questioned, am I competent enough to cover any types of news stories? Because I don't have the synapses that fully No, let me rephrase that. It's not that I can't process the evil. I have a low metabolism for evil. That's what it is. It takes me a long time to get to the, oh, wow, you're an evil son of a bitch. It takes me a long time to get there. And I think we're at a point where if you're going to have a valid opinion about our state of affairs, perhaps you should have a faster way to metabolize all of the evil that is everywhere, and the air is thick with it. So please care for yourself and others, because it's a lot. Indeed. All right, other things that we want to talk about here. The drones. Yes. All right, so let's see what we've got for drone articles. And I actually have more tech going, so I'm a little excited because I can actually, look something up on a laptop and not have it take 10 minutes. So, and now I have a microphone, which I might not debut this week. I've got to figure out how it works, but homegirl is upgrading. So it's been a while, but hopefully knock on wood, it'll be worth the wait, okay, for these episodes that we have coming up. All right. Now, I hesitate to click on this first link, but I'm going to click on the first link that I see. And it is Radar Online. So, all right. You know, I mean, that's one thing I do pride myself on. Being able to, that was my cape, by the way. That is my ability to bring, like, legitimate sources, peer-reviewed sources, but I'm just looking for like a type of verbiage that they're going to use in this article, and then I can just do a search for like a more legitimate source. Okay, so this article says, truth finally revealed about drones plaguing U.S., how they are training for war as armored fighters against China. Interesting. Okay, so just skipping to a quote here. The president determined if the Chinese invaded Taiwan, one of the things the Taiwanese can use to defend themselves is U.S. drone technology, the insider revealed. These drones are armed to the teeth, and they are big, but you can't really deploy them to Taiwan without them being successfully tested and data valued. Okay, so I see where they're going with this. The insider explained the ominous orbs are just prototypes, and aircraft are being down at night, and the aircraft are being down at night. I'm gonna need the preposition situation to work out here. Sorry about the grammar of this article. This is not, that's bothering me. So basically, according to this, the drones are not from any foreign government. There are government practicing, for where they want to send drones overseas to, this looks like an offensive act here. And then later on, they're claiming that China and the U.S. are gearing up for war. So listen, okay, so this is Radar Online. So yeah, but it's plausible. They really want to, and by they I mean the folks who are currently in charge of our country, and we know that these power systems are multinational as well. But so it's plausible because war is profitable, and so the most powerful nations in this world keep war going all the time. My only thing is, why Jersey? Like, are the drones hovering over diners? Did the drones go to the shore? Like, what's going on? What is specifically in Jersey? Unless, let's do this. Lockheed Martin locations. Okay, let's look at a map here, shall we? Sorry. I'm like digging my own rabbit holes and then throwing myself down them. Do they have locations in New Jersey? Lockheed Martin Corporation has a location in Camden, New Jersey, where it specializes in advanced technology solutions for government and commercial customers. Well, okay. And I'm sure they're not the only defense contractors out there. That's just a name that came to mind. All right. So yeah, it could be plausible that they're just kind of dicking around with these drones before they give them to Taiwan or Ukraine or whoever else. Fun times. I'm just going to look at one more article. All of these articles are sketchy. Radar Online, that might be the clearest one we're going to find, folks. Wow. Okay. We still have no definitive reason why this is happening from our elected officials. That is a damn shame. Because the article I want to click on was from 5 days ago. This should have been immediately explained and the fear and panic alleviated. See, this is what I mean. It's just feeding off of fear, thriving off of that, and then operating from a standpoint of how can I maximize fear and uncertainty? How can I destroy so I can rebuild and refund and get kickbacks and get donations and so on and so forth? That is evil. And I metabolize it very, very slowly. Okay, so this one is from MSN.com from 5 days ago, and it says, huge New Jersey drones announcement imminent after they're seen over Donald Trump's golf course. All right, I'm going to get into the article. So it's cool if the drones are flying over Jersey. That's all good. But if it's flying over Mar-a-Lago, now we got a problem. Okay, so, this is about a Trump news conference. Okay, so this is going to be 100% bullshit. In a news conference held at his Mar-a-Lago resort, Trump spoke about sightings of unidentified objects flying over his Bedminster golf course. In Jersey, sorry. And promised full disclosure one day into his administration, implying that the full truth would be published on January 21st. We still haven't seen his tax returns. We're never going to figure out officially who these drones come from. Wow, you guys, this is bad. Wow. This article has no information either. Okay, I give up. No need to keep looking at that. So there are drones and just no reason for them. Okay? So that's how we're living. That's how we're rocking out 2025. Okay. So I spoke about that. Check. I spoke about that. Check. Spoke about that. So, and I think I did this last year as well, like in January, talk about like, resolutions, their purpose, or how long have I been doing the show at this point? Goodness, I just am losing track of time. I don't even know how long I've been doing this show. I feel like, it's been over a year at this point. So I feel like I've crossed the threshold of at least one other January, but just since the end of 2019 until now, it feels like 6 to 9 month chunks. It does not feel like years and years and years. But anywho, so in terms of resolutions, I haven't come up with anything hard and fast. I like barely survived last year, so I'm treading lightly now. But here's the thing. Earlier today, one of my dear friends, she sent me a video from her backyard. There was a sloth in a tree in her yard. So she was able to zoom in and get up close and personal on a sloth. And I was like, holy shit, they're big. Like, not big like a giraffe or something like that, but it was a lot bigger than I thought. And so apparently they get up to 2.5 feet tall, which I suspected because I texted her back on the thread and I was like, this looks toddler sized. This sloth looks like the size of a small child. And I was immediately disturbed because I didn't realize that they were that big. Why? Because every time you see it's just like a little mascot, like a little polo shirt, or, oh, it's so cute. Oh my God, a sloth. It's so cute. No, that would have scared the shit out of me to see a sloth in a tree in the backyard. And so she has to call animal control now. And I was just like, damn, the sloth, he can't get, no Airbnb. I'm just like, can he cash app you to like be in the tree? Just nah, he can't chill there. But I mean, I understand because I've always been told where when you see like nocturnal creatures in the day, that's a pretty good sign that they have rabies. So I definitely don't blame her. But for me, it was just that the way, just to actually see it and to see how it actually moves, I was like, oh, that's a little disturbing. I would have gone in the house and peeked out of the window to see if like the sloth still there. Then maybe day two, morning of day two, if I'm having my coffee, looking out of the window and there's a sloth, yeah, then we're calling animal control. But he would have been able to get, a free night stay out of me. I'm just saying. But, so then I, dug another rabbit hole for myself and I started going down the rabbit hole and it was like, a sloth. So they can be between, 2 feet tall, 2.5 feet tall. And they're slow because their metabolism is slow, okay? And they don't, eat a lot of calories. And so then I just kept Googling because I'm trying to imagine, like, well, how are they still alive? Because from a Darwinistic standpoint, it's like, so they don't see that well. They're almost blind. They're definitely colorblind. They don't move quickly. And they don't, they have claws, but they don't really have, in my opinion, a very advanced defense mechanism. So how have they survived? And if you go to the slothconservation.org site, yes, I really wanted to know this information. So where was the info, or was that a different website? Oh, I'm sorry. That was a different website. But I like the conservation site as well, because they are like funny about stuff. Hold on. There is a point here, I promise. Because and I want to find the right link, because I want to read it and not like mess up the way it was phrased. Because this ended up being a parable, right? In terms of thinking about resolutions and stuff. Because I always look at January and I'm like, oh, there's all this stuff that I haven't done, and I've gotta be quicker, I've got to be more nimble, I have to be more adaptable, I'm never gonna get anywhere on anything, I've got to do more. And then my friend sends me the video of the sloth, and so all the link said on the other website was, oh, okay, no, it was the conservation site. I just was looking in the wrong place. Sorry. So, why are sloths? Here we go. Sorry. I'm rusty with this. Getting back into it. Why are they slow? Because they're slow as fuck. Like, they just eat a few leaves. They only poop once a week. So, they eat a few leaves. They climb down the tree once a week. Pop a squat. Go back up. They sleep for 15 hours a day. And it says the answer is surprisingly simple. Being slow is an incredibly successful strategy for survival. Get the fuck out of here. In fact, being slow has helped sloths to survive on this planet almost 64 million years. It is obviously a winning tactic. I'm running around like a chicken with my head cut off. I'm like, oh, gotta try this. Oh, gotta try that. Gotta, lose weight here, and, gotta do this different budgeting here. Gotta pay this back. Gotta try to be a better person. I gotta save for retirement. Gotta make sure that I can make it to retirement. What's my body like now? How can I try to, maintain the integrity of, my muscle mass, as I age, or my bone density as I age, the quality of what's going on up here so I don't get dementia, financially, again, retirement, but just in addition to that, what are your investments? Where's your 401k invested? I'm just like, it's taking me so long to write these books and write this screenplay. What's going on, Deanne? You gotta move faster, gotta be better. The sloth is like, nah, I'm good, so good. Again, the answer is surprisingly simple. Being slow is an incredibly successful strategy for survival. So then I look up, well, It's the size of a small child, and it's slow. So how did so many sloths survive? There should be like two, because you could pick them off quite easily, because they're not going to run. They're not running anywhere. They don't run. They're slow. Even in the video my friend sent me, it was like, it's slow. Slow. Here's an answer to that as well. This is fascinating. Sloths can't run, but they can hide. As a result of their poor eyesight and energy-saving adaptations, sloths physically don't have the ability to move very fast. They can't run away from predators like a monkey would, and instead they have to rely on camouflage. The sloth's main predators, big cats like jaguars, ocelots, and birds, harpy eagles. Ooh, that sounds very unpleasant. Harpy eagle. All primarily detects their prey using sights. It is likely that the sloths move at a pace that simply goes unnoticed in order to avoid being identified as prey. Quote, they aren't lazy, they are stealthy. Get the hell out of here. So they move so slow, the predators don't even see them. I don't know. It was disturbing seeing how large the sloth was, but I'm kind of feeling Home Skillet's survival strategies here. I'm just going to maintain. That's all I'm doing. I'm eating just enough. I'm moving just enough. No more, no less. So slow. So the jaguar, you can't see me. The jaguar can't see the sloth. Because it's like, that's amazing. And that's why it's still alive. And that's why my friend has to call animal control. But so I started the day feeling like, okay, we're 2 weeks in to 2025. And, where's my resolution situation? I should have my appointment book. I get a new appointment book every year, and then I put all of this shit in January and February and March, and like, I'm gonna do this, do that. I'm gonna totally be a more organized and not more efficient, just base level efficient. Efficiency is not one of my skills. Be more organized and just a generally efficient human being. So every year in January through March, usually by my birthday, I have to be honest with myself, but I lie to myself in January, February, and March and pretend that I'm going to be a different human being than the human being I actually am. A better human being than the human being that I actually am. And I'm kind of at a point where I just, even if it's only for 3 months, I'm not going to lie to myself this year. And so that was a thought that I was sitting with as I drank my coffee this morning. And then later in the day, my friend sent me the video of the sloth. And then the sloth became the parable. again, sorry, being slow is an incredibly successful strategy for survival. So maybe my spirit animal of the year is the sloth. I'm gonna move so slowly that the haters won't see me. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna through 2025. This is me. And I'm gonna survive. That's how I'm gonna survive. Slow the fuck down. So thank you, Mr. or Miss Sloth, for invading my friend's yard. Because you gave me something to think about today once I learned more about you. So hopefully they don't put you down, because that's usually what happens when animal control gets involved. I mean, that's usually is what happens anytime any type of law enforcement is involved. We'll talk about that at another time. Okay, but thoughts and prayers to you, Mr. or Miss Sloth, because like I said, you really gave me something to think about today. So, no resolutions, but if I were to have one, it's to be slow as fuck all year. Because being slow is a survival strategy. 64 billion years. I mean, I'm not going to make it that long, but I dig it. Give me 2 leaves. I'm going to sleep for 15 hours. Deuces. Climb down once a week to take a shit and go about your business. Although that doesn't seem healthy, though. They should defecate more frequently. I guess it works. Okay. Now, just looking at my notes, other stuff I would like to talk about. I would like to talk about books a bit. And I'm going to be talking about books more this year. And I think I teased it on one of my commercials for an episode that did not happen. My bad. I'm going to be having more interviews in the next couple of weeks, and hopefully in the upcoming months. And I mean, I don't want it to like take over the show, but if I could get it where we have an interview here every 4 to 6 weeks, I think that's a healthy amount. And to have good conversations with writerly folks and other artists. So there's that. Okay, so I'm finally prioritizing some reading. And I read all the time, but it's always in fits and starts, and I want to be able to finish this by like the end of next week. So that's my ambition here. And so this is called The Man Who Could Move Clouds, and it's by Ingrid Rojas Contreras. And I read reviews of this book when it first came out like a couple of years ago, and I was like, yes, I really want to read that. And then, but like everything else, it just ended up on reading lists with thousands and thousands of books that I just have never had the opportunity to read. But using my spirit animal of the sloth, I'm not going to try to get it through a ton of books this year. I'm just going to try to get through the ones that, again, are just that are feeding me somehow, that are appealing to me. Now, I'm in the beginning here of the text, and I love the way that she's using language here. Let me show you a couple of examples. I have stood before the old devices at the palace of the Inquisition in Cartagena, where heretics from all over the country were sent to be burned at the stake, chains and spikes and shackles. My breasts have ached before the sharpness of large iron pincers that would have been heated over coals, fitted over a woman's breasts and made to bite. There's something about the way that she's writing this text where she's able to collapse time. How do I explain this? I saw a monologue that someone did one time about time itself, and he was talking about how, like, people who see time linearly versus people who see time cyclically. And the long and the short of it was, this particular character said both versions are wrong. So time didn't just start at one point and then just go forward. And time doesn't just kind of cycle back on itself. He was like, time, right? What if time could fold over on itself? Let me show you. All right, so this is a Post-it, right? So if the top of the this is so bootleg, sorry. If the top of the Post-it is one point in time and the bottom of said Post-it is another point in time, when you collapse time, what if you could just fold it, right? Fold. I can't do this, sorry. I just end up left-handed. So now I'm holding the phone with my right hand. And I'm trying to fold the piece of paper with the left to demonstrate. Okay, so one point in time at the top here, a second point in time at the bottom. But then you fold them on top of each other and you collapse time. That's what she does in so many of these brief passages. And I'm a slow reader, so maybe I already demonstrate sloth potential. But when I find a passage that I like, I read it 3 or 4 times because I want to understand the sentences I'm looking at. Are they short and sweet? Are they lyrical and winding? What's the quality of the language? I'll read it out loud to myself. Like, how does this passage sound? Is it dissonant? And that's why it's standing out to me? Or does it lull you into submission? Does it hypnotize you? Like, what's going on with these passages? And so I get lost into that so much, and I definitely don't finish any book ever in life quickly because I do that. But again, being slow is a good strategy. No, incredibly successful strategy for survival. So I'm going to stop beating myself up and feeling guilty for being like the slowest reader on the face of the planet. I'm just going to say I have sloth-like what if there was a superhero that had like sloth capabilities? And so, but this is the only thing, right? Because like Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman and all these other folks, like, it's like, who can help us? Who can save us? And then like they immediately show up. But like Sloth Man or Sloth Woman would be like, who can save us? And then about 15 years later, the sloth hero would come through. But yeah, so maybe I'll, reframe these things, like, again, being a super slow reader. It's like, not a character flaw. It's a sloth superpower. That's what it is. All right. So let's see. But we like this book thus far. The only thing that I can say is The Man Who Could Move Clouds, the structure of it sometimes takes me out of it. But again, because like every paragraph is her present and her mother's past or her grandfather's past. She's always present with her ancestors in every paragraph. I mean, that is astounding. That's remarkable that she's been able to do that thus far in the text. So I really look forward to finishing it. Okay. Now, the other thing I'm going to do is preview a book for you, and then I want to be able to do this book review. So it's January 15th. So let's say by like the 30th-ish, 30th, 31st, by the end of the month, or at least by like February, that first week in February, I'll do a book review of this text, right? So this is called Revisiting the Minds, and it's by a writer named Amit Shah. And I will say, in full disclosure, and I'll announce this too when I do the review, he did send me the book. I actually use social media to like help me with my writing. I'm in writing forums and writing groups, and I get writing announcements. I follow literary magazine accounts. So I don't, social media is a waste of time. This is probably a waste of time, but I do try to use it toward, my medium, the things that I care about. And so what is Revisiting the Minds? So these are essays, and it looks like poems and photos as well. Really gorgeous photos flipping through it so far. So I really look forward to reading this, and I'll chat about it. Now, the writer, he's traveling, but if he is interested, I would love to interview him as well. I definitely am intrigued by what I've seen thus far of his work. All right, so those are two, book-related recommendations / review situations. Sloth. So I won't be so quick to try to label. Oh, you see, like how I did that there. I won't be so quick to label everything that I'm doing at every little moment and nook and cranny. All right. So that's book stuff. Plays. This was back in November. I got to see Kenneth Branagh in King Lear. Now, I don't know if I mentioned that in any of those little commercials that I did. It doesn't seem like I'm repeating myself, so apologies if I am. But yes, I was able to go and see a proper play. It's been so long, y'all. I miss theater so much. But I went to see the play, and my friend, after it was over, we were walking out, and she was like, oh, so what did you think? And then I was like, I have notes. I have notes. Uh, who says that? It's Kenneth Branagh. Who says, Sir Kenneth Branagh, who says, like, hey, I have notes? I do. Right here. Sloth superpower. I have notes. Years ago, I don't know how many years ago it was, my sister and we took my mother to see King Lear and with Frank Langella, and he murdered that. Like, he was amazing, because what you see is a man who's losing everything. He doesn't trust his children. He finds them disrespectful, duplicitous, disloyal, and he's losing his mind. And that actor hit all of those touch points. And so you see, the ebbs and flows of that journey. It was amazing. And I always reference his performance, Frank Langella specifically, because I, to be honest, didn't have a great appreciation for Lear at all. Like, I would say, so my favorite Shakespeare plays in order: Macbeth, one. I always get like the weirdest responses. Titus, number 2. I love Titus. I love it. Merchant of Venice, number 3. Much Ado About Nothing, number 4. Tempest, number 5. So you notice Hamlet's nowhere in there, and Lear is nowhere in there. But seeing Frank Langella's performance, I was like, okay, I've understood the words and the thematic elements of what was happening in the play, but I never felt it until I see how Shakespeare was grappling with the pathetic nature of his situation. And when you see him as the character realizing how he got to that point, it was like, it was like a stab in the heart. So it was just this really excellent performance. And Sir Branagh was not giving. I'm sorry. he was not giving that. He was giving very beautiful speeches. He was giving, it was a very boisterous performance. Like, at one point he started running around the theater, and I told my sister, I was looking around like, oh shit, Lear is running? Is that what we're doing? You didn't feel the gravity of his age, and not just his chronological age, but the ways in which guilt and a guilty conscience, past hurts and disappointments, the ways all of that over the span of a lifetime will weigh down on you, will bear down on you. He wasn't giving us any of that. And then the lighting washed all of the actors out. I could barely see their facial expressions. And it's just who's doing the interrogation room lighting? whose decision was that? The costumes were, in my opinion, kind of a throwaway. There were certain characters that I was like, oh, okay, like I'm not gonna say like liked in terms of, oh, like that's really cool as a costume, but there were certain costumes that felt as if they rang true to the universe that was being created, but most of it was just very jarring. It just felt super, the design choices just pulled all together felt super random, to be honest. And they had no intermission, and so what you see Branagh and the other actors doing is talking super fast. The I don't want to get, so I'm not going to say which actor because I don't want to try to blow that person up on social media, but there was an actor who was a secondary character, and he kept going up on his lines. I was just like, dude, really? This far into the run? What is going on? It was a lot. I was, grateful that I got to see it. So, I can actually say, oh, I've seen Kenneth Branagh in a play. And I've seen, some of the other actors were, somewhat formidable. Again, just because, like, I was so distracted by some of the choices and by how much youth they were bringing to Lear, which I just thought was out of place. I saw like flashes of other, actors, like, oh, okay, like if I see that person's name, on a marquee or something somewhere else, I'll definitely want to check them out. But I was just distracted by, I was like, what the hell is going on here? So yeah, that was a play, very, very late review. But, I definitely want to, in the coming weeks, try to get tickets to other things. But that's the thing, too. Like, it's so expensive. I did have, and we'll move to museums now. I did treat myself to a museum day. And I went to the MoMA and I went to the Whitney. And that was a mistake because I scheduled them both the same day. I mean, for me, I have a 3-hour average. Like, I have to be in a museum at least 3 hours to just have a sense of, what's going on. And I totally blew that because by putting both of those institutions on the same day, and I was thinking, oh, it's, like drizzling, it's snowing, it's December, it's, it was a day during the week. I was like, oh yeah, the museums won't be that crowded. They both were packed. And I mean, to be fair, it was a Friday, but it's just people just act like they don't care about art. So I was just like, oh, I have the museums to myself. Or, no, everyone was there. And again, I was super distracted and super pissed off. Because it's just like people just running around. Their kids are running around. And everybody's on their phone. And because they're on their phone, they can't see that I've been trying and attempting to look at this one installation for the last 10 minutes. But people keep crossing in front of me and snapping selfies. And no. Here's what I will say, though. So one of the things that I'm looking for in a museum experience overall, I like to have a narrative of how the exhibits are curated. How did you decide to bring these particular artists together on this particular floor? to represent this particular artistic philosophy or this particular time period. And so, don't get me wrong, I'm going to go back to the MoMA, but it felt like a mess. I couldn't get a read on the curation over there at all. And to be fair, it was the more crowded museum, but I feel like, because I'm going to try to find a Tuesday or a Wednesday when the undesirables are gone. Because it's just like, why are you here? You have no interest in anything that's happening around you. Leave, go, and make space for the people that want to look at this stuff. Come on. People literally on speakerphone, standing in front of artwork like an asshole. Terrible. But anyway, so the MoMA, I couldn't get a read on the curation, on what stories you guys trying to tell here. And when I can't get a read on that type of thing, it bothers me. So it irks me. So I'm going to give it another shot, and then I'll just go. And then I'll probably need to be there for like 4 hours and then just walk. I suspect I'll get a better read in that place if I start on the top floor. So I'll start on the top floor and work my way down. But I'm like, what stories are you guys trying to tell here? It was just anything. It's just like, oh, modern art. Here you go. Modern art. Here you go. Here's some old fucking Jackson Pollock. Here you go. Just like, it was just, I was like, okay, I don't know what you guys want us to get out of this. So I've got to go back there. Now, the Whitney, the place where I took my time the most was the Alvin Ailey exhibit, because that's going to be gone in February. That was messy because there were certain things that were there where it was just kind of like, it was cool to see just from a historic. Yeah, I think that's why it was messy, because whoever curated it, it seemed like there was a struggle to want to be super historic, because the consummate artist and one of my sorority sisters, Judith Jameson, she passed away at the end of last year. Nikki Giovanni passed away at the end of last year. Quincy Jones died at the end of last year. I was just kind of like, wow, there's a lot of people that have joined the ancestral realm. But so I get the impulse of wanting to have so many historical elements in the Alvin Ailey exhibit, because of the gravity of losing Jameson just kind of at this point. And then, just to honor, anniversary wise, in an anniversarial way, like honor Alvin Ailey's vision and, the Alvin Ailey dance troupe. But it kept like going back and forth of, oh, this item is just here for a historical reference versus, oh, this item is here as history and as art. I think that exhibit succeeds the most, when there is just more of a focus on how the dancers moved their bodies, or how the dancers were photographed, or how they were sculpted and things of that nature. The ways in which Black people, one of the reasons why Alvin Ailey is such an icon for us is that there were so many times where our stories were not allowed to be told. And so how certain things, you can express it physically. The body can serve as a place for resistance, for rebellion, but you don't necessarily have to verbalize it. It can be a felt spiritual experience. And that, I think, is what makes Alvin Ailey's work transcend like Just Dance. And I'm not saying Just Dance. I love dance. I danced many years ago. But that's what moves it, again, just from, oh, I'm moving my body back and forth, so on and so forth, to a transcendent spiritual experience, is the complexity of the stories and how the stories are being told with the body. And so I think that the exhibit succeeded when it focused on that and less on the historical, and which kind of doesn't make sense, because people as our Black American classical dance, because that's what it is, it again, I feel badly saying that, like, I cared less about the history of it, but I don't think that's really true. I just think that the history and the meaning is just evident in these people and their powerful physiques, their articulate physiques, their fluid, beautiful physiques. And so any of the exhibits, any of the installations that were paintings and sculptures and photographs and videos of that, I was all dialed in. But stuff where it was just kind of like, oh, here's a program, and, here's a poster or something like that, I really didn't care about that part of it, to be honest. So that's that in terms of, museum stuff. Now, overall, I did walk through a little bit more of the Whitney. No, I think I walked through the same amount of both museums, but I had a little bit more of an inkling to the curation story at the Whitney. So I suspect my second visit will be more successful there as opposed to my second visit at the MoMA. And I'm saying first and second, folks, because I'm a native New Yorker, but like I left New York for good in 2011, and I just moved back in November of last year. So that's 13 years at the bare minimum of me not like going to museums. And so, I mean, like, I would go to plays other places, but it's just not the same. I've lived in 6 or 7 different states, in different areas of the country. It's such a conundrum, because I still can't afford to be here, but I don't know any other place that satisfies me as much as New York. I don't know it. I don't know if it exists. It probably would be better for me mentally and emotionally if it did exist, because I wouldn't keep trying to beat myself against this rock. But I love it here. I love that I hear different languages, and I meet different people, and I eat different foods, and I see different ideas, and I get taken to different worlds. That's never happened anywhere else that I've ever lived on the face of the planet. Like, can we franchise this shit and put it in cheaper areas? I don't know. I wish we could. But just the satisfaction of being able to do things like this, because like before, I'm living in the suburbs. All I do is go to my job and come back and just kind of hang out in my apartment, go to a cute cafe or take a yoga class or something, but just not the level of life and curiosity that I would like for myself, that I try to pride myself on. None of that really was going on anywhere else in the entire world other than New York City. I really love my city. I don't know what to tell you. other stuff. Oh, okay. So in film and television, so because I had a pinched nerve in my neck and because I was sick for so long, let me just turn, I had the computer on quite brightly. I just watched a lot of movies and TV just because, like, I could at least, like, kind of prop myself up in front of a laptop, you know? So what did I see? Okay. So right now, I'm rewatching the first season of Squid Game because I was super excited that after all these years that it came back. And then I realized, oh wow, Deanne, you're about to really play yourself because you kind of don't remember the plot. No, not kind of. Let's call a thing. You definitely don't remember the plot from the first season. And so I'm rewatching these episodes now, and how many do I have left? I think I have 3 or 4 episodes again. Y'all, it is diabolical that they made us wait that long to get season 2. But I still enjoy the show very much. I'm enjoying it more on on the rewatch. Because on the first watch, like the characters I didn't like, I very much, is detest too strong? We'll say detest. The characters that I did not like, I detested them. But this time around, I found myself going, oh, that's why she is like that. I sat with it a little bit more and I was less annoyed by them and paid more attention to their decision-making process. I want to highlight, I won't, spoil it for those that haven't seen it, that you plan on watching it. But that tug of war episode is everything. I love that episode. And I love Player One. I know, like, at the end of the season, we know that's coming. But tug of war, I like Player One. I like his, because even though he's the oldest character, he has the best sense of play, right? So it's Squid Game, but as I'm rewatching it, it's like, what are the characters missing? They're missing their sense of play. And hold on a second. Because I actually want to use people's names. Okay, so the elderly man is Oh Young-soo. I love his sense of play. There's a little boy in there. And that tug of war episode, I was like, they won. And then the main character, he was one of the characters where I detested him. I was like, dude, I don't care if you fall off a cliff because you are so annoying. You're in this situation because you just spent all your money and that's why your back is against the wall, whatever. But then it was just like, oh, there were so many little details about him, that he was in the military and that he tried to be an entrepreneur. His marriage fell apart. and just the ways in which his life just unraveled into this soup. And I was like, yo, I can sympathize with that shit right now. I really can. And so the main character, his name is Seong Ji-hoon. Oh no, I'm sorry, that's the actor's name. His name is Lee Jung-jae. That's not, what did they call him? Okay. See, this is part of the reason, because in and it's translated, the subtitles are in English, but like they call each other nicknames. So in one scene, like they're calling the characters the name of their hometown, and so that was kind of confusing me to try to remember what their names were. But Jay, so we'll call him Jay. So Jay, I could not stand him that first season, but then I realized, oh wow, he's like player 1, he's player 4, 5, 6, and he has that sense of play, even though, like, okay, these games are nefarious and mortal. These games are terminal, right? Because when you lose, you die. But it's like, oh, okay. So why would someone want to see this? Like, why would you force somebody to do this? And part of it is with capitalists, with money looming over their heads, can you actually like take it and use it to force people, I would argue, to be something better? And not better in the sense, because like, some of these people, they're turning on each other and things like that, and they're making really dastardly decisions that they think will help them win the prize money. But that's the context for the games. Each individual game in its actual self, when you see the game, and they usually give them 5 or 10 minutes here, but it's only in those moments when people truly embrace their inner child that they're able to win. So I'm just wondering, for season 2 now, do we get more to the heart of why there's a group of people doing this, like offering people money to play these childhood games that are terminal if you lose? And that's all I can keep thinking is there's something about the ways in which people reveal that little boy or the little girl that they used to be that is somehow satisfying for the people that watch it. But I think it's satisfying for the people in the moment too, because what is more pure than the joy of a child playing a game? That, because there's no other motive other than you just want to win. And when you do win, you're grateful for it. And you can see, like, again, the characters that are successful are the ones not who just think about like strategy all the time, but who really think about like that pure joy of a child winning something. So yeah, I mean, I'm seeing a lot more different stuff in it now that I'm rewatching it. But I was just like, I'm so mad y'all made me wait this long for these episodes. I gotta rewatch the whole thing. Do you know there are other shows that I could have been watching in the time it's taking me to rewatch the first season of Squid Game to prepare? So I'm fully, Kate back on. So I'm fully prepared to watch season 2 of Squid Game. All right. Now, other stuff that I saw here. This one was a surprise. So I saw that Kate Winslet had a new movie on Hulu, and it was called Lee. And it was a biopic about the photographer Lee Miller, who I've heard the name, but I don't know a thing about Lee Miller. And I watched it, and I was like, oh, okay, I enjoyed it. So there was a lot that I did not understand, to be fair, because where I thought the movie excelled was the scene, the one-to-one conversations that characters were having. The way those scenes were shot, really just letting the actors, play off of each other. I felt like that part was the most successful aspect of it. But I was, on the fence about whether or not I wanted to watch it. So, tidbits about me. I don't actually enjoy watching World War II movies, and I don't enjoy watching movies about slavery. Now, I do both if I feel like I, will be edified. So I do eat my vegetables, but those are two things, that and then like documentaries about the Trail of Tears. I don't want to see that either. I eat my vegetables, so it's not that I don't engage with those topics. But again, I have such a slow metabolism when it comes to evil. And so much evil happened during slavery. So much evil happened during the Holocaust. I've actually been to concentration camps in Central Europe and really had very, very shadowy moments. Going to the African American Museum in Washington, D.C., and actually seeing chains that were attached to a human at a certain point. A human that looked like me, a human that could have been me. I had shadowy moments. It's the human capacity for evil. It's vast. And I don't like knowing that. But all of that being said, I enjoyed Lee. I did. There was some stuff in there about mental health that was a bit problematic, but I don't think that means don't watch it. Just know that there's a take or two in there that's problematic. I suspect it is done for storytelling expediency. But I was kind of like, I don't like that you guys did that. So I won't ruin it for anyone, but I'm just kind of like, I didn't like that. But, yeah, but the acting's enjoyable. And, again, had an opportunity to learn about an artist, a historical figure that I hadn't heard of before. Well, that I had heard of, but that I just didn't know too much about. Other things here. I believe I've waxed poetic about my joys and frustration with the films of M. Night Shyamalan. This was another one. Although, you guys, Trapped. So I watched Trapped. Haley Mills is in Trapped. I lost my shit. I said, oh my gosh, he got Haley Mills. Okay, so when I was growing up, we went through stints of time where there was cable or not. But my Nana, she always had cable. and Nana had the Disney Channel. And the Disney Channel had Elizabeth Taylor and Haley Mills. The Parent Trap, National Velvet, and my favorite, which is, hold on, I just want to make sure I get the title right. Yes, Summer Magic. Yay! I have seen all of those films an obnoxious number of times. But I love those films. So, I'm not like a massive Disney cartoon person, but those Elizabeth Taylor movies, those Haley Mills movies, I was here for all of it. Oops. And now my nose is running. Pardon me. Okay, sorry, I'm getting distracted by Haley Mills. Okay, so Trap by M. Night Shyamalan. You guys, his kid is in the movie. She plays a singer. She had some bops, I have to say. Like, if she, I don't know if that album actually came out. Sorry, I didn't do any research on that. But if she put music out, I would mess with it. She had some bops. The actual plot itself is just... Okay, so here's the thing. It was better than Old. Because I was so pissed off at him after Old. I was like, I don't think I'm ever going to watch anything this guy does again. But Trap was decent. I actually like Josh Hartnett as a bad guy. He was, if you watch Black Mirror, hold on. Okay, so Josh Hartnett did an episode of Black Mirror called Beyond the Sea. Which season? Let me see. What season was that? Okay, I don't know what season it is. Okay, I'm not going to keep looking for that. But anyway, it's called Beyond the Sea. That had to be one of the most cold-blooded episodes of Black Mirror ever, you guys. He was great. And he's great as a bad guy in this one, too. So we need to see more. Oh, maybe he should be Lex Luthor. I heard that they're looking for another Lex Luthor. I don't know why they keep making Superman. I'm not here for it. But I have to say, if they got Josh Hartnett to shave his head and be Lex Luthor, I might have to check that shit out. Because he definitely has an antagonistic streak. But yeah, Trapped was okay. I keep saying Trapped. Trap by M. Night Shyamalan. It was okay. And so I will continue to have a love-hate relationship with his movies because, honestly, to be honest, part of me wanted to watch it to know if I could officially break up with him, because after Old, I was like, this is just abusive at this point, the shit that he does to us. But Trap is not abusive. It's just implausible, yes, at every turn, but not abusive. And like I said, his daughter is actually a talented musician, so she makes funky pop music. It was good. Goodish. Don't, like, when I say good, I don't mean like, I just mean it was okay. All right. Other stuff. Okay. Yeah, last movie that I want to mention, and I think I did mention this on a commercial for an episode that never took place. The 6888 Guys, Tyler Perry has turned a corner. This was enjoyable. That doesn't mean there weren't elements that are problematic, because it just... he needs to work with a linguist. There's something about that's inauthentic about the way he utilizes the Black American working class accents. It's like it'll be in the 60s and 70s and stuff, like, and he has people sounding like they're just recently freed from slavery. And there were a couple of moments like that, even though it's set in the 1940s. So the 6888 is about the only brigade of Black women during World War II who, you know, had an opportunity to go to Europe, to go to the theater of war. But even though they did their basic training, you know, they had all of those same standards and everything, they were never supposed to see, you know, any type of action at all. And so then they ended up going and sorting mail, you know, because other, you know, folks had tried to do it. White men tried to do it. Black men tried to do it. White women tried to do it. Everybody tried to do it, couldn't sort this mail. And so they said, okay, well, this is something that's not important. It's inconsequential. And so they gave it to these women. And apparently these women sent 17 million pieces of mail in less than 90 days. And a lot of these people thought their relatives had died in the war. They're like, I'm never hearing from Jimmy again. He's not sending me any letters. They gave people their families back. And I'm embarrassed to say I had never heard of them before this movie. And it was again, goodish. So there were certain elements that were a little, you know, melodramatic, but that movie made me cry. Like, just certain things that they depicted in terms of what the women went through and how earnestly the women did everything. I mean, there was one moment where I just had to applaud them. They could, you know, if they had something, a mouse had chewed through it and they couldn't see the address, and they were finding different ways to triangulate. Oh, well, this is the same type of paper. And like, they were detectives, and they gave these people their families back. They gave the soldiers their families back. They gave the families in the U.S., the families at home, they gave them their soldier back. And so I appreciated that. I appreciated that Tyler Perry took the time to tell that story. I appreciated that because I think all artists, you know, you have your go-to moves, and directors are no different. Like, directors probably have their go-to moves that they do, and it's just like, oh, this is shticky, but this is my thing. And it's how, you know, their signature move, right? Oh, God, I'm about to commit so many crimes here. Okay, we're going to commit some crimes. All right, so shticky director stuff, like Quentin Tarantino is so self-indulgent with these extra long speeches and monologues. And it just, people blow smoke up his ass and tell him that it all sounds great. And a huge chunk of it is amazing, but some of it is just bad revision. Like, you know, sometimes we don't need to hear somebody for 15 minutes, says the hypocrite who's been online for 110 minutes right now. But ain't nobody paying to see me do this. So, it's just like, if you're paying to see a movie, can we trim the fat, sir? Can we tighten it up? And it's just kind of like any impulse, any story, even if it doesn't ring true to the character, just throw it in there. I just, yeah. And hold on a second. Sorry, y'all. I have a terrible memory, and I definitely, with these brain fogs that I go through now, like, I don't remember anything now. So, that's why I'm just trying to look up titles. Yeah, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, that was on the same level as Trap for me. And I know that if anybody does manage to watch this episode and manages to make it to this point, I'm probably going to get dragged for that observation. I don't care. That shit was way too self-indulgent. That could have been 30 minutes shorter. You know, just certain, you know, because it's like, oh, you know, he's going to do it and just have people ramble on. And it's just like, I'm not always here for it. So that's like a shticky director thing. And then, you know, Spike Lee has his weird camera shit, and then he puts actors on dollies and stuff, and we know that's his thing. Even when it's not necessary, even when it has nothing to do with developing the plot whatsoever, you know what's going to happen. And I'm not always here for it. But this is why I bring up shticky directory stuff. Because other than making working class black people sound like they have just been freed out of slavery, there wasn't a ton of shticky Tyler Perry stuff. Like, there wasn't an evil dark-skinned guy that was, like, beating on everybody. Was there? Emo? No, there wasn't any, overall, wasn't really, like, any emo light-skinned guy that just is, like, emotionally tortured, and he's just going back and forth because he just doesn't know what he needs to be doing. Yeah, and the black women were complicated for the most part, and, you know, they had inner lives. But, you know, there was, again, some stuff in terms of the melodrama of it, but he really took his time to tell a different movie, tell a different sort of story. So I really, really applaud him for that. I enjoyed it, and I will watch it again, which says a lot, because, like, although I'll read a passage again and again and again, I rarely watch a movie again and again and again. Like, I really, really have to like it. Like the cinema of Haley Mills and Elizabeth Taylor. All right, so this episode is about to draw to a close. Season 5. Episode 3. Now, for the folks that, have been with me before, you know I always begin or end an episode with poetry because I am a writer, I am a storyteller, and that's what I got. That's what I have to offer. That's how I see the world. And so in addition to sharing my words in this space, I like to share the words of others who are maybe more wise, have a broader perspective, okay? So, from poets.org, the poem of the day, oh, hold on a second. Okay.
Butte.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure, because this is a word I've always had issues pronouncing, so I don't want to say the title of the damn poem and pronounce it wrong. Okay? But from poets.org, this is a poem by Robert Wrigley, and it's entitled Centaur over Tomer Butte. Centaur over Tomer Butte. Tomer Butte, named for George Washington Tomer, who arrived in 1871 to formalize its theft. As for Sagittarius, at the edge of the center of the Milky Way, The combined distances between its stars is forever. Some of those are also not there since prior to this morning, also known as 1871, when the people who were here called the stars what the stars were called then, which was referred to as now in some circles. Even now, it looks more like a teapot pouring into the black cup of a summer night, a brew darker than a pine forest in the new moon. At the university, there's a map that shows with dots of black ink all the lightning strikes on Tomer Butte since the last of the 19th century. What lives on that map never sees the light, and Tomer Butte was a significant mountain once before lava from the west filled its valley in. Then came the part of forever from that point to Mr. Toomer, with me breathing down his neck for a while in a further forever, where everything is or becomes a ghost. Do not assume the ghosts were birthed by other ghosts. Sagittarius has an arrow drawn at the very heart of Scorpio, who stung Orion to death. It's not so much that the language of poetry sells us everything we think we need. We need it. By what law did Sagittarius make his squatter's claim on a place that doesn't exist, except that we think we can see it just above Tomer Butte? For as Scorpio rises, Orion goes down. Oh, the poems. I just read what they have there, but the poems I pick to share here. I like that. It's this stanza here. It's not so much that the language of poetry sells us everything we think we need. We need it. Yes, indeed. All right, so that is Robert Wrigley. Okay, and before we sign off tonight, our last poem of the evening is from the Poetry Foundation, and the poem's entitled Bee, B-E-E, Bzz. All right, and the poet is Claudia Emerson. Bee. When Claude says, "Blessed is he who has seen and believes," you know he is about to tell the one about bees. His father told him which kind of sting was the worst, but you have to see some things for yourself. And when you ask how on earth do you catch a bee to see anything, he tells how you hunker down next to a sweet potato blossom and watch until one lands on the ruffled cuff and then ambles down into the sweeter sleeve. You lean over and pinch the blossom shut, and there you have it, ready to sting yourself so you can decide on your own. And he wants for you not to doubt this. Even more blessed you will be. You have heard and not seen. So this poem reminds me of myself waxing poetic about the survival techniques of the sloth. Right? There's something about the observation of animals, the quality of animals, and what we can gain from them. And Centaur over Tomer Butte. I think that idea of collapsing time, of being in the present or in the past. Is it now or is it 1871? It's not necessarily cyclical, but there are echoes of time between now and then and into the future and in forever and into forever. So with that being said, this has been the Composite. I'm still Deanne Battle, and this is season 5, episode 3. Have a good night.